Yes, it's so nice to be back. Good morning, everyone. We are now moving to quarter one, week six, and the topic is all about critical approaches in writing a critic. Of course, your presenter, Teacher Migs. Okay, so our objectives for this morning is to be able to provide critical assessment for certain piece of writing history, film, artworks, and design. Display works of critiquing and produce length of evaluation from 75 to 750 words. Oral at this point will do for the online classes because you will be having a hard time for writing down as we are actually consuming the discussions for oral communication. Next, understand the validity, worth effect, use of the materials, and appeal further appreciation for these approaches. And the last one, appreciate the association of these approaches in critiquing. Okay, before I proceed, I would like to inform everyone, each of you, when you are actually participating in the discussion, of course, you will be gaining 10 points with certain guidelines. You are so assertive, well delivered, and at the same time free from error, and your ideas are well organized. You will actually also gain 7 points if you are delivered, sensible, and free from error. And then you will gain 5 points, obviously, once you join in this Google Meet for our discussions. You're already gaining your 5 points for that. Okay. All right. So let's continue. So before I proceed to the next slide, I would like to remind everybody about what we had for our previous lesson, which I posted also in our YouTube channel. So it's all about outlining. Am I right? So which I assigned this in some group in all sections where it talks about that when you are using outlining, you are basically providing a blueprint and serve to be as a foundation in order to make your writing works more effective and more convincing to your prospect audience or readers. In addition, it turns out to be successfully because you are engaging with the some components of writing, such as the types of outline, the format of outline, the characteristic of outline, and the general forms of outline. So there were some activities given and performance tasks was also given to you from the previous lessons about thesis statement where we created a written essay, and that essay will probably be outlined by individual students, and you can go back again with our YouTube channel for you to be able to use that as a springboard. Okay, let's move on. So technically speaking, this is the way on how we define what a critic is. It defines a careful judgment in shaping one's opinion about the strength, weaknesses of a piece of writing or work of art. It is specialized forms of writing in which a critic, you can serve as a critic, a reader evaluates any of the following. Once you read something, you have observed something, and you are doing a critical analysis, assessment, and evaluation, you are considering yourself a critic. And what are those subjects for critiquing? We have this scholarly work, we have work of art, we have design, we have graphic design, we have stage play, we have dance and program. Okay, take a look at this picture for the next slide. These are example of scholarly work. When we say scholarly work, these are written in a form of academic writing or literary works. Like, for example, the first one and the second one, the first one with written text is what we call project proposal. And this is an example of academic text. And the other one is a research proposal, another example of academic text. Now, this one, this picture where there is a teacher and there are students or learners in front, as you can see, Despite the flooding, they are still coming in to meet over and able to gain the knowledge they deserve, even though they are being welcomed with floods. If you're going to come up into an article, you can go for this picture, and that is also an example of academic writing. And then this one is it's a kind of novel written by Gilda Olvidado. Kay Hirap Mong Maalin is the title. This is an example of literary works. Okay, literary works, it's different from academic form of writing, because in literary works, more often than not, sometimes it does not govern rules and forms in the content of their works. If you are going to take a look at the work of Benvenido Santos, where every part of his work is being punctuated with comma, every single word. So that means the forms, when it comes in contents, is being given less much attentions in literary works, but not in academic writing. Okay, next we have this short film, and this short film is written by Paz Marquez Benitez from Tayabas, Quezon. This was all during the time of American regime, where the author may be engaging one of her remarkable story that made her to have this kind of short story, or even expressed and displayed in a form of short film, that is star. And then the other one, we have this what we call a short story about the rabbit and the turtle. This was actually displayed and aired onto you through YouTube and slides, where we discussed something about the different techniques to be used in various academic techniques or academic writing. Okay, so I guess you should know the difference between academic writing and literary writing, which are product of scholarly works of a certain individual. Okay, next we have these artworks. The artworks, these are basically made by hand. Okay, so if you're going to take a look at the first one, this is the statue of Oblations in UP Diliman, Quezon City, where it is a naked physical appearance of a man. It outrests his hands and displaying a nude portrait of himself. We may not know exactly what would be the sculptor would like to express on this oblation. We're calling it oblation. Okay? And that statue displayed in front of UP Diliman, Quezon City. And then the next one, we have this two identity that you're going to look at it, the man and the woman. They're almost closing together, because this is more on gender equality, where the responsibility of a man can also be taken through the responsibility to be offered by a woman. Because in the early days, we came to believe that most men are the only one who could take the work going out in the house to find a job and find provisions for the needs of the family. But nowadays, even the woman is actually women are actually looking out to find means of their survival. They are working together nowadays at this point. So in this portion, the figure, it's a matter of the art. This art, it's a matter of finding out that the work intended for a man can also be accomplished by a woman, or opposite, the work intended for a woman can also be accomplished by a man. Okay, the third picture, this third picture is a kind of, it's a place where mark is a marketplace where there are sellers, and then there were actually women at the back talking something or gossiping something about what they heard over. You know, one of the qualities of women in the early days and even in the modern time, when they heard something chismes or what you call gossip with their neighbors or with their friends, they are always being triggered by their excitement to learn what is this gossip all about. But sometimes it turns out to be negative, because when it is being passed from one person to another, it is being labeled with other meanings. That's why it turned out to be negative. Okay. So the next one, we have this what we call bayanihan. The bayanihan is It's a kind of practice of the early days where they would like to go for another land area and transferred for another land area. They would just call their neighbor to help them in lifting the house. This is so-called bayanihan. Okay, the bayanihan practice in the early days was so really frequent in those days, but nowadays, because most of the constructed house residential are made up of concrete, so it would be difficult for a person, neighbors, to have this what we call bayanihan. Maybe the process of bayanihan practice can only be seen for those places where it seems to be life is so simple, most likely in the so-called Nayon. Okay. The next one, we have this what we call graffito or graffiti. When we're talking about graffito, these are kind of expression painted by the painter on a wall or the fence in a public place in order to express the feelings felt by the mass concerning the situations going on in the society. This is intended for public expressions, and that's what you call graffiti. And then we also have this practice somewhere in time of harvesting, in time of planting, where most of the Filipino are still we're also still working together when they are planting rice in the rice field. As you can see, they have this tradition in the early days also, especially for those places where planting of rice is still possible, but not in our community, because nowadays most of the old rice field were all converted to to fish pan. That's why this practice can no longer be seen nowadays, because the area is too very low, and most likely when there is an heavy rain, the place in our community is actually experiencing a terrible flood. That's why few of us who have seen this kind of practices. Okay, the next one, we have this design works. The previous one is the artwork. Now this is a design work. In tattoo, if you are seeing this one, tattoo, this is mostly seen for those people who have been jailed and imprisoned, because it's their trademark or patent to them that if they have their tattoo, it means to say they are being convicted, and they have this significant mark on their body that they were come in inside the jail. And then we also have this what we call dress, a dress designed by a dressmaker with different style. And then the other one is an interior design prepared by interior designer. And then the next one is a design work for residential house prepared by an architect. That a typical house having at least two or three kids may have this kind of modest house in the present time. Okay, so and then we also have this graphic design, or sometimes we're calling also this some infographics. The first picture, if you are seeing it clear, it was being pointed out by other people around, and obviously is being bullied, and how why this kind of things are happening, why there's such a persons who are being bullied, surrounded by a group of people. And then this one is a special kit. This is very useful when you are in all time you need to prepare this, because sometimes disaster is striking unexpectedly, like the floods and also the earthquake, tsunami, and so on. Hoping we are not going to experience things like that. And then the third one, we have this what we call saving one's life by offering your blood donations. This is every year conducted by persons in the rural community, inviting some people who would like to offer their blood in order to save one's life. And you can just come there immediately and offer your blood donation. Sometimes you need to go through with the so-called examining the person if they are really qualified to offer the blood. Okay. And now we also have this what we call gender equality. In the early days, for you to be recognized being a man and being a woman, it depends upon on the kind of outfit you're wearing. If it is a man, of course, intended for a man are something like a tuxedo or even a pants, well dressed pants also. But for women, they are not being allowed to have those pants intended for a man. But nowadays, because so we were actually, or we have been opening our eyes to the situations that women and men, there could be a possibility of having equal stability in the society, and they are being accepted in that manner. However, there are some instances wherein they are men in their physical appearance, but deep down inside they have this soft and gentle feelings and emotions. And these are what we call gender preference to be prepared by the person or individual. That's why we're having this what you call a person who just came out from their classes and wanted to face the reality of their identity. Being a man turned out to be a gay, being a woman turned out to be a lesbian. Okay, and these are really now happening in our society. Even though there were some senates before who have been rejected this kind of proposal, but our mind and our hearts and our eyes have been open about this acceptance. Those in between, the gay, the lesbians, the LGBTQ plus A, and so on. And then the next one is a kind of philosophy where it turns out to be life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. So sometimes, with those kind of philosophy in our life situations, we are trying to enlighten our mind with this kind of life principle. This will serve as a guide for us to be enlightened as what life is. Like for example, I myself, even though I was having this distinction during my college day, there was also situations where I did not make my first examinations for the board, and I did not lose my hope for that. Backing out is not my it's not my cup of tea. I'm always trying my best to reach out my goal for that manner. And if you're going to recall back our discussions concerning Dead Star Alfredo Salazar, there were actually kind of a philosophical aspect there where man turned out to be in love with someone else even though they are already engaged with their loved ones. So, in a typical life history, in the reality, as much as possible, when you are about to be engaged, to be married with someone else, you're trying to maintain a good a good attitude in your being. But because of the temptations that are going on, sometimes the temptation is irresistible. And uh, and that philosophy goes for the so-called polygamy. A man, why still man, is still engaged with someone, knowing fully that he is already engaged to be married with his loved one. So maybe it is not accepted for other, but for other there is always a finding of justifications for this aspect. Okay. All right. So philosophically, those are some kind of situations that governs life principle in life. And then the last one, we have this what we call the media. It's a kind of platform that are being used in a social media, where this social media uh, serve to be the platform used by most people all over the world, because this serve to be an access of all in order to communicate with the other people around. And most likely, this is the most common channel pervaded when it comes in immediate communication. and that is social media through the use of the different platforms where it turns out to be productive because in media nowadays, the trending is moving so fast. It may be like this month, and then for the coming month, there will be another apps to be brought in the platform and informing the all users, Facebook user, that there is something like this. There is something, and you need to update all your apps for this manner. Okay, let's continue. Another subject for critiquing is what you call stage play. Remember, this is stage play by Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare. It's a tragedy about loves, where family of Juliet wasn't agreeing to the family of Romeo. There is a feuding in between the relationship of the two persons, but they do love each other till death do us part. That's why their romance love turned out to be a tragedy for both of them. And then a dance play. Okay, this is also a subject for critiquing why people are dancing in the street, why they come together for dancing, what is the essence of this, are they not sensible enough to dance in the public, in the street, and so on? What would be the benefit of this doing such kind of practice like this nowadays? And then the other one is a so-called program. Why do you think for almost 2 decades or 20 years of um, existence of the so-called gag show Bubblegum, headed by Michael B, is still on air nowadays? Why it turned out for the other running program it did not work like that? Why this running program gag show even up to now is still working effectively and productively? Okay, so those are the different subjects that can be used for subject for critiquing. So these are the scholarly work, the artworks, the design, the graphic design, the stage play, the dance play, and the program. Okay, let's try to understand the critical approaches in writing. And we have this approaches. The first one is formalism or new criticism. The next one is feminism, then followed by gender, Marxist, media, reader response, biographical, philosophical, psychological, physiological, historical, archetypal, and social. Okay, let's try to move on. This one was actually used in as an initial for this critical approaches in writing, so that you may have some kind of background for this short film written by Paz Marquez Benitez. It may tell something about the theme. It's all about forbidden love, where the symbol and image identified of a dead star. It's all about forbidden love. Why it was forbidden? Because the love is not actually just because Alfredo
Papa, kailan
Salazar
ba
was
sila
already engaged to
magpapatali?
be married
Hindi ko alam sa
with
ngayon, pero may tiyak na
Esperanza.
sinabi sa akin sa
And
Alfredo,
at the
ngunit
same
sa aking
time, it
pagkakaunawa,
is
ang naisan ng
the
esperansa na
conflict
mangyari ito
there
sa susunod na
in
buwan.
that kind of a short
Napag-isip
film
ko,
that is
bakit
star.
hindi pa siya
It's all
makapagpasya?
about man
Hindi
versus
ba't mahigit 30 taon na
circumstances.
siya? At isa pa
Maybe if
binata,
Alfredo
hindi ba
Salazar
napapag-kamit tayo
was
sa
not engaged
Esperanza?
at that
Hindi
time
rin
to
naman siya mukhang
Esperanza, there
nagmamadali.
could also be a possibility for Alfredo
Paano
Salazar
mamahalin ang isang
to
babae
fall in
kung hindi
love
naman
deeply
minamadali
to
ng lalaki?
Julia
Naalala mo ba kung
Salas.
gaano sila
Okay,
magmahal?
so let's proceed
Mahal.
for the next
Ano yun?
slide because I
Aba
understand
syempre,
that
kay
you
Esperanza,
had
sa
already
aking
watched
pagkakaalam,
this
wala
short
namang ibang
film ahead of
nakarelasyon si...
time. Okay, so the first one is all about formalism. As far as formalism is concerned, you need to be more careful when it comes in convention, especially writing down a scholarly works as a project proposal, concept paper, or annual report, and also research paper. Those are product of academic writing, where most likely it governs with forms, the structure, the grammar, the spelling are supposed to be observed when it comes in formalism. However, when it comes in literary works such as short story, such as poem, such as short film, sometimes they're not being much more particular when it comes in the spelling, when it comes in the structure of grammar. because that is a literary works. Okay, so I mentioned a while ago about the work of Benvenido Santos, where every part of his word is being punctuated with comma, and that is not the usual structure of having a sentence expressed in English. Okay, and because that is a literary works, a literary piece. Okay, next we also have this what we call feminism. A feminism revealed basically the image of women and the underlying concept of femininity. What kind of femininity that have you found out from the movie or from the short film that is Star? How would you characterize the feminine approach of these two women engaged to Alfredo Salazar, Julia Salas and Esperanza? So Julia Salas is she's a kind of woman who just fall in love in reciprocality between her and also Alfredo Salazar, because Alfredo Salazar got attracted on his first sight towards Julia Salas when he visited Don Julian, the one of the famous judges in their community that made to fall himself to Julia Salas. But despite the thing, Julia Salas was not actually eligible, and she didn't know anything that Alfredo Salazar was already engaged to be married to Esperanza. It was only in the latter part where she was just found out. And then also, Esperanza, hearing over the ear, over the mouth of someone else that there was an ongoing affair between Alfredo Salazar and Julia Salas, she did not act violently, unjustly, and she did not even confront Alfredo Salazar directly towards those gossip in the place. So she just she was just behaving accordingly. Okay, so that's the kind of women that we have in those time. But nowadays, this kind of practice is no longer a good actions or deeds, because when your loved one is being engaged with with other women around, the original and legitimate wife tend to become scandalous and be more tactless on his word. Sometimes you cannot blame the legitimate wife, because they tend to become speak they tend to speak patriotic words such as nuts, idiots, and so on, because of their anger, uncontrollable anger. Sometimes if you are hearing this, you tend to become irrational, because when you are mad, you're thinking irrationally, and those kind of things are now experiencing in the present time, but not in the time of the story you watch about Dead Star. Okay, next we also have this gender. This one is also another example. So from the example art design, we just pointed out that there was distinctions of identity, where if you are a man, you are portraying yourself being a strong person, and a person who will always to be looked up by their wife, by the people in the community, because they all respect to all men. And if you are a woman, basically your role being a woman is being the light in the house, and you most likely taking care of your children in the house, and the man will probably be providing all the needs of the family as he went out of his house. But nowadays, that is no longer the practice. Both couple, men and women, are working together to provide the needs of their children. In addition to that, as far as gender equality is concerned, if a man capable to work intended for women, the woman can also capable to work intended for the work of men. So it's not already a big case or a big deal in between the two. And in addition to that, as far as gender equality is concerned, we're also looking at to the point that the feelings and emotions of some men and women are not being disclosed, primarily because those are the kind of beliefs that we went to think go over and over again. But nowadays, because this is open up to all to all individuals in our society, men are becoming to open up their figure. They're now getting out to their closets and bringing out themselves. If they are having this kind of soft and gentle feeling, they will disclose it and move out to their closets. I'm referring to the gay. So they are men in physical appearance, but in deep inside, they are gentle and very delicate. And also women, they are actually look like sweet, look like cannot be touched, but they are even more strongly than gay or than men, perhaps. So you are now seeing the capability status of both gender, either men and women. That's why in our society nowadays, the identity of being gay and being lesbians are now accepted in the society. It's no longer a big deal, as I was saying earlier. Okay, let's move on. Now we also have this what we call Marxist. The Marxist is a matter of looking up to those people who are holding a high position in the society. And these are very normal even in our present time. If you are holding a high position in the society, more often than not, you are giving much more attention compared to those people who are not in having a positions like that. They're just only an ordinary person. uh, for example, if you are the mayor in the community, more often than not, your attention is being caught most of the time by those people around you, and also the kind of treatment being given to you is actually different from the kind of person living in the so-called laylayan. Sometimes they're also being branded as alipin sa gigilid. Alipin sa gigilid. So those are some people who are not given much attention, especially those marginalized people, the indigenous people like the Ayetas or our great great ancestors. Sometimes their requests are not given much attention because of their locations, but they are just also given now a special treatment because they wanted to uh, people in that place, especially those in the area of Sambales and Porac, where the Negritos or the Ayetas are living there. They're also requesting on their ancestral, what do you call it, this ancestral land area, even though they're not that well off in their living, as long as they would be cultivating the place, they will be much more thankful for the government because they kept on saying, which is their remarkable words or statement, dito kami isinilang, dito rin kami mamamatay. Those are the common words that came out from their mouth as they are talking about their origin. Okay, so this is not a long story. Even in the early time, this was already happening up to the present time. The Marxist. Okay, let's continue. Now we also have this what we call media. In the early days, when the information was actually delivered from one person to another, it was actually uh, sent over through mouth communication, or perhaps through letter, but it will be carrying by what do you call carrier. There must be a carrier closest to the family, and that letter will be sent to the person in person. It's not, there is no such post office, but a person will probably be traveling, will transport, would travel, would transport himself, bringing with him the letter and send it to the recipient of that letter. Or if not, it can be passed over from one person to another. But the only difference that and the disadvantage that in those days, that when the information is being labeled, that's what you call mongering. In Mascom, they're calling it mongering, if I'm not mistaken, where it labeled down with another details that made the information turn out to be negative. However, with the information received by Esperanza, as he came to know that Alfredo Salazar was engaged with the other woman and having an affair, she just learned it from other people that there was a thing like that. But Alfredo Salazar did not admit that in the story, in the short film that you watch. Okay. All right. Nowadays, there are so many media channel that can be used in order to make an access for communications, which makes the communication much easier and faster. And that is in the form of different apps like Instagram, like WhatsApp, Facebook, okay, and also in terms also of acquiring knowledge like the AI, the Chat GPT, and so many things. Okay, so let's proceed. We also have this what we call reader response. In reader response, just like a matter of seeing yourself in the position of those people in the short story that you watch. Would you consider yourself like Alfredo Salazar from the short film that is Star? Are you seeing yourself in the position of the two ladies by the name Julia Salas and also Esperanza? Now, it's just like a matter of while you are watching the short film, you are seeing yourself and thinking at the back of your mind, this is not the story of these people, but the story of myself because you see yourself in their position. So this is what you call a reader response. Same thing with those artworks presented earlier. If you are gay and you are not even coming out in your closet, and then it's about time for you to introduce yourself and have a chance to wear a cross dress and be recognized with your identity and prepared to be a woman despite of being a man and prepared to be a man despite of being a woman. So you are also seeing yourself in that aspect in the form of reader response. Okay. All right, let's continue. Then we also have this what we call biographical. The biographical, we are trying to deal with the background of the authors who had made written this kind of subject for criticism, which is the scholarly work, the artworks, the design, the graphic designs, the stage play, the program, and dance. Okay, like for example, biographical. Why do you think why Liza Nakua, the ballet, prepared to have these strong connections in this type of dance? Biographically speaking, maybe she has been trained by her parents for so long when she was a kid. Perhaps that's why made herself to engage in ballet. Okay, another with the work of Paz Marquez Benitez about the short film. Do you think Paz Marquez Benitez had a strong connections with the story about Dead Star? What kind of thinking that you have in your mind that Paz Marquez Benitez had this kind of engagement and influence in the story going on about Dead Star? Okay, so it's just like a matter of seeing the author's life in the product of literary works or academic writing produced by them. Okay, let's continue. Then we also have this what we call philosophical. So I was saying a while ago about the example that I had about life principle. Okay, every individual has his own life principle. Minsan, sometimes it came out from their mouth unexpectedly, but they wanted to express that unconsciously. It was expressed unconsciously. Okay, for example, they have this kind of beauty that is being adhered by them by herself, and then they said it unexpectedly and accidentally. I came to believe that simplicity is beauty. Simplicity is beauty is was spoken out by one philosopher by the name of Emerson. Roman Ronald Emerson once said that simplicity is beauty. So it may be expressed in a form of quotations, but those are it entails some philosophical point of view to the life being of a person. Okay. While ago, I mentioned something about myself concerning philosophical aspect in life. Okay, that's one. All right, and also the practicing of polygamy by a man, is it really justifiable to have that in the story of Dead Star. Maybe among Muslim people, this can probably be accepted. But for Catholicism and also for Christianity, this is not accepted. Okay. Next, we also have this what you call psychological approach. The psychological approach here is the kind of mind how it was being behaved during the time a certain trials and hardship are coming over. Okay. In the story about the short film that is Star, what can you say about the actuations and deeds of the two women as well as Alfredo Salazar did? So you cannot deny the fact that they did, two women did promptly here, and they did not make any scandalous actions towards Alfredo Salazar or toward each other. They were just behaving becomingly, not unbecomingly. Okay, then we also have this what we call physiological approach. These are seen through physical basis. For example, if you are in love with someone else, with your parents, with your loved ones, with your girlfriend and boyfriend, you are showing that that you value them by expressing, hugging, embracing them, kissing them, and it certain somehow blow off your aura, and your faces will be glowing up for that matter. And all those things are some kind of product of physiological approach. It has something to do with the connections of physical aspect. And then the last one, this is a historical approach where it turns out to be positive and negative. And we have these secondary sources and primary sources. When we're talking about secondary sources, these are all based on text, written sources. But if it is primary sources, these are all press sources, person information. Okay? One of the current example that we can cite on is the current stand of Ahmed Ocampo telling uh, the killing of General Luna, the man behind this or the person behind this is not actually Emilio Aguinaldo, but the mastermind was identified as the mother of Emilio Aguinaldo. Maybe the mother of Emilio Aguinaldo was thinking negatively towards General Luna that made her to plan uh, some kind of killing against General Luna. But from the story found by historian Ambito Campo telling it was the matter of Emilio Aguinaldo who did the plan in killing General Luna. Okay? All right. So let's move on. Then we also have this archetypal and social approach where it talks about the myths. uh, Talking about the myths, sometimes you are not convincing yourself to believe unless you're not going to experience it. Like, for example, are there really an existing of aswang and at the same time Serena? In our present time, we're not actually believing it even in the old days, but sometimes because of the video that we are seeing on Facebook or on the platform social media, but sometimes we're also thinking if there could be a possibility that there is a truthfulness on this kind of myths. Okay, and then the social activities in connection to the historical. This may somehow as a connections with the culture, tradition, and practices in our community and society. Like, for example, in the month of June, what is that most remarkable gathering or happenings in Nepalit when month of June is coming in, approaching? Okay, yes, you have mentioned it. So it's all about the feast day of Apu Niru, where almost all people are giving respect and offered something for the kind of success that they have acquired in praying for that. Okay, and that's part of their social and archetypal approach in our lesson for this aspect. Okay, let's move on. All right, there could be a possible activity to be done, but you have to do it in a form of oral. Okay, I am instructing everyone in the class to have these individual evaluations from the presented pieces of subject for critiquing, such as the scholarly work, design, artworks, graphic design, stage play, dance, and program. You may just pick out one from those and then discuss it orally in this class. Okay? All right, so you'll be given at least 1 or 2 minutes to speak out and then prepare yourself for this, okay? And then picking out one of these pieces and then make a critiquing for this. All right, so I hope you have done it after 2 minutes. Okay, let's move on. So the application is preparing for discussions on their chosen pieces of writing works are designed, opening the commas they are discussing and have it shared with the learners and the teacher as well. Okay. And then we have these generalizations. We're calling one students to recap what we had on this discussions for quarter 1, module 6, critical approaches and writing a critic. So it's what you call paglalaat in Tagalog. And this is the rubric to be followed when you are about to present your pick one piece in any of those presented figure in our presentation earlier. Okay, so you have the content 45% organization and word choice 25%, delivery of the language that's 20%, oral explanation as you do it through online and you are discussing it spontaneously. That's total of 10, and then the total percentage is 100%. Okay, for the evaluation, so the setting for the discussion of the chosen piece from one of the slides, they're still continuously happening, and then you are continuously explaining and discussing the view, your chosen piece as the rubric presented. And for the performance task, okay, this is the performance task that you're going to do. Performance task number 4. In a short band paper, you do it computerized. Choose one any of the subject for critiquing, and then you will provide an introductions where you will be presenting your subject for critiquing. Of course, you must have a learning background for your subject, and then follow to that is the main body of your subject for critiquing. In the main body, you will be describing it. You will be making a summary, and then at the same time making an assessment of for what you have read, what you have watched, and what you do know about these pieces of writing works or scholarly works, design program, dance, and so on. And then after that, followed by analysis. Okay, the plot, the description, the summary, the analysis are all on the main body of your paper for critiquing, and then the last one is the conclusion. So the conclusions that serve to be the judgment and opinion and a way of reiterating what you have presented in the introduction. Okay, I hope I have provided all of you the needed information concerning quarter 1, week 6 about critical approaches in writing a critic. For more details, these are the references that I visited in one of the YouTube. Okay, and then thank you for having a great time to everyone. I hope you did enjoy having such a wonderful presentation and discussions for our lesson for this day. Thank you and have a nice day to everyone.